Hey guys, it's Stacy from My Petite Garden. Thank you so much for tuning in. So in this video, we are gonna talk about the Hoyas that I think are easy care and are good for beginners. I've gotten some questions from you guys asking me what I think are good Hoyas to start off with for a beginner, and what Hoyas in my collection I feel are the fastest growing and the least fussy. So I thought this video would probably be a good idea, and hopefully you guys find this helpful. Again, this is just from my experience. Some people might feel differently about the Hoyas that I'm going to mention, but for me, these are the ones that I feel have been pretty easy. I don't really have to worry much about them, and they've grown well consistently for me. So I hope you guys enjoy this video and find it helpful. As always, I really appreciate all of your support, your comments, your likes, your subscriptions. Thank you so much, and let's get into the video.
Alright guys, so let's start off with the Hoya Krohniana Eskimo. I currently have in my collection all of the different Hoya Krohniana varieties, but this particular one will have to be my favorite of them all. I even like this one more than the Super Eskimo, which a lot of people prefer. The main reason is because this one grows a lot better for me. The speckle leaves are just so much fun and it's so beautiful. It's almost like someone sprinkled some silver specks on the leaves. This one I keep directly under my grow lights, and it's been growing so well for me. I originally got this as a small rooted plant that had longer vines, so I ended up cutting it into smaller pieces, and I rooted it to make a fuller plant, and now it's growing into a much fuller pot of Krohniana. So I really like this, and I definitely recommend it for beginners. So if you want to give this one a try, I would definitely recommend it. Moving on to another type of Hoya Krohniana. This is the Hoya Krohniana Black Leaves. This is another variety that I really love. I honestly don't know too much about this variety, but I believe it is a clone of some sort. The foliage is a very deep dark green and sometimes even black. And what I have noticed is that the newer growth comes out much darker and definitely looks almost black in color. This one is a very easy one to grow for me as well, as with most Hoya Krohniana, with the exception of the Super Eskimo. I don't give this guy any special treatment except for putting him under a grow light. Next is the Hoya Mathilde. This guy is a cross between the Hoya Serpens and the Hoya Carnosa. This one is currently very popular, and I have to say that out of all of my Hoyas, this one is probably the easiest to grow. It doesn't require any extra humidity or any extra grow lights, so I just have these either on the windowsill or hanging by the window. These guys are excellent growers for me, and I have successfully propagated many of these as well. The largest of my Hoya Mathildes is currently in bloom and has been a consistent bloomer for me this spring. I personally find the Mathilde bloom to be one of the strongest in scent, especially during the nighttime. The scent is extremely strong and it's very floral. is my Hoya Mathilde that is currently in bloom. It has 3 peduncles right now that are blooming, and the blooms themselves are just absolutely beautiful. Moving on to the Hoya Sunrise. This was one of the first sun-stressed Hoyas that I was introduced to, and I think it's also what makes this Hoya so popular. The Hoya Sunrise is a cross between the Hoya lacunosa and the Hoya obscura. I love this one so much that I have multiples around my home. Not only is the sun-stressed foliage absolutely stunning, the fuzzy little blooms are also so adorable. And because this guy is also super easy to care for and doesn't require much to thrive, I can see why it is such a lovable plant. Just something to keep in mind if you do want to maintain the red sun-stressed leaves is to make sure to keep it under bright light. I try to keep my Hoya Sunrise either right by the window or under some grow lights to maintain the sun-stressed colors on the leaves. And in terms of humidity, this guy does not require any additional humidity in my home. Here is the Hoya Carnosa Crimson Queen. This was my first ever Hoya, and I have to say, aside from the Hoya Mathilde, this is one of those that you can probably just leave it alone and let it do its own thing, and it will continue to grow very nicely for you. I've never had any issues at all with this Hoya, and as you can see, it is currently in bloom. I have mine sitting here in a hanging macrame shelf by the window in my bedroom. I also have another one of these in my living room that is sitting on the top level of my shelf. I would say about 3 feet or so away from the window. Another very popular one right now is the Hoya Rotundiflora. I personally feel like this Hoya has the most unique foliage out of all of the Hoyas that I own. I almost can't believe that this is real. Some people refer to this as a Hoya square, but I think it looks much more like a rectangle than a square. I have 2 of these guys, and the first one that I got I actually struggled with quite a bit when I first got it, but it's doing great now, and this one here was much easier to handle and started off great from the get-go. I have this one growing under grow lights as well as near a humidifier, although I would probably think it'll do fine without any extra humidity. Here is my Hoya Macrophylla pot of gold. Like the Hoya Macrophylla Variegata, it is very easygoing. The leaves are very succulent-like and very hardy. So I find that plants with these type of succulent leaves tend to grow very easily and doesn't require much additional care. And I really love the variegation on this plant. It's different than the Variegata in the sense that the variegation is actually on the inside of the leaf. I have mine growing in leca by the window, but it does not receive any additional humidity or any additional light from a grow light. So many of you may know that I am a huge fan of small-leaved Hoyas, and the Hoya that started my obsession was none other than the Hoya Serpens. This little guy is a trailing vine, and in my opinion, it's probably one of the cutest Hoyas. The leaves are slightly hairy and almost a slight leathery feel to it. I have noticed that this guy prefers warmer temperatures, so I would try to keep it under a grow light during the winter and fall seasons, and during the spring and summertime I would either keep it under a grow light or I could leave it by the window. This one here I have growing in moss, and I've actually tried growing these guys in all the different types of medium you can think of, and they've all done really well for me, so definitely an easy one for me to root and propagate. And here is another one of my propagations. This one actually grew from a tiny little cutting that I accidentally broke off the main plant, and it was no more than maybe 2 inches long, and I'm really happy that it's growing so nicely now. And you could see how adorable the leaves are, especially the new leaves that are coming in. This is my Hoya Memoria, and in my opinion, an underrated Hoya. I think that some people might find the foliage insignificant, but I think it's beautiful in its simplicity. The leaves are small and not as succulent as some of the Hoyas, but the new leaves come out very shiny and very green, and sometimes you'll also see some silver specks on the foliage, and I think that that's really beautiful. I have this guy growing in leca, and he's grown very nicely in this medium for me. He took really well to semi-hydro, although mine hasn't bloomed yet, but it does have fuzzy blooms, which is one of my favorite. I don't give this guy any additional grow lights or humidity, so in my books that's an easygoing Hoya. Next is my Hoya Parasitica Variegata. For me, this has been a steady grower but a slow grower, but it doesn't require much. When the new leaves come in, they come in hot pink, and it slowly fades into this white cream color, which is a very beautiful process to watch. I have mine under grow lights with no additional humidity, and you can also put this guy on the windowsill if you like during the summer and springtime, and it will do just fine. Last one that I will be highlighting in this video will be the Hoya Retusa. I'm sure many of us are familiar with this very odd looking Hoya. This is one that I personally love to use as a decorating piece in my home because it drapes very nicely as a hanging plant, and it also helps that it's very easy to grow and care for. It's definitely not fussy in any way. I have mine usually just hanging by the window, and I don't give it any additional special treatment, and it's been growing great for me. Also a very consistent bloomer as well.
Alright guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you do happen to end up giving one of these Hoyas a try in your home, please let me know how it went and how they are growing for you. I'd be really curious to see. Alright, so please remember to comment, like, and subscribe, and as usual, I really appreciate all of your support, and thank you guys for watching. And if you haven't followed me on Instagram, please make sure to do so at My Petite Garden, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!